Standing tall means knowing your worth. Right now, at this very moment, you possess something invaluable: yourself, your time, your energy, your presence. These aren't just words. They're the currency of your life. Every day, countless people give away their power without realizing it. They say yes when they want to say no. They accept crumbs of attention when they deserve the whole feast. They stay in situations that drain their spirit, thinking that's all they deserve. But you're different. You're here because something inside you knows there's more. Now, think about a beautiful garden without a fence, without borders. What happens? Everything tramples through. The flowers get crushed, the soil gets compacted, and nothing beautiful can grow. Your life is that garden. Your boundaries are the fence that protects everything precious within. The truth about boundaries isn't complicated. It's simple, yet most people never learn it. When you set clear limits, you're not pushing people away. You're teaching them how to stay. You're showing them the proper way to be part of your life. Many of us grew up believing that love means always being available, always saying yes, always putting others first. But that's not love. That's surrender. True love, whether in friendships, family relationships, or romantic partnerships, thrives on respect. And respect starts with self-respect. Look at your hand for a moment. Those 5 fingers represent the 5 fundamental boundaries everyone needs: your time, your emotions, your physical space, your energy, and your values. When someone consistently crosses any of these lines, they're not just stepping over a boundary, they're stepping over you. Here's what nobody tells you about unhealthy relationships. They don't start unhealthy. They begin with hope, with promise, with potential, but slowly, like water dripping on a rock, boundaries erode. One small compromise here, another there. Before you know it, you're living someone else's life, following someone else's rules, forgetting who you really are. The cost of not setting boundaries is astronomical. It's paid in sleepless nights, in stress headaches, in opportunities missed, in dreams deferred. It's paid in the quiet moments when you look in the mirror and barely recognize yourself. But here's the good news, you can stop paying that price today. Start with something small. The next time someone asks you to do something you don't want to do, pause. Feel the weight of that moment. Recognize that you have a choice. Your no is a complete sentence. It doesn't need justification, explanation, or apology. Consider the time you say yes to something you don't really want. You're saying no to something you might truly need. Every time you let someone cross your boundaries, you're crossing your own values. Every time you settle for less than you deserve, you're telling the universe that's all you're worth. But you're worth more, much more. You're worth relationships that energize rather than exhaust. You're worth connections that build you up rather than tear you down. You're worth people who respect your no just as much as they appreciate your yes. Think about the relationships in your life right now. Which ones make you stronger? Which ones make you smaller? Which ones fill your cup and which ones leave you empty? These aren't just questions. They're compass points showing you the way forward. The path to better relationships starts with understanding a fundamental truth. You teach people how to treat you. Every interaction is a lesson. Every response is an instruction. When you accept disrespect, you teach disrespect. When you honor your boundaries, you teach others to honor them too. Many people fear setting boundaries will cost them relationships. And sometimes it will. But here's what's important to understand. Any relationship that requires you to abandon your values, compromise your peace, or shrink yourself to maintain it isn't a relationship worth keeping. Consider the oxygen mask principle from airplane safety instructions. You must secure your own mask before helping others. This isn't selfish. It's essential. You cannot pour from an empty cup. You cannot give what you don't have. You cannot teach others to value you until you value yourself. The process of setting boundaries is like building a muscle. At first, it feels uncomfortable. Your voice might shake, your heart might race, you might worry about the other person's reaction. But with each boundary you set, with each limit you enforce, you grow stronger. Start noticing the subtle ways you give away your power. Maybe it's always being the one to text first. Maybe it's accepting last-minute plans that disrupt your schedule. Maybe it's tolerating disrespectful comments disguised as jokes. These small moments are where real change begins. See, remember, relationships have natural rhythms of giving and receiving. Like breathing, exhale. When you're always giving, always accommodating, always compromising, you're holding your breath. It's time to breathe freely again. Your time is sacred. Your energy is precious. Your attention is valuable. These aren't just resources to be handed out freely to whoever demands them. They're the building blocks of your life, the currency of your dreams, the fuel for your future. I think about the people you admire most. Chances are they have clear boundaries. They know when to say yes and when to say no. They understand their worth isn't up for negotiation. They recognize that respect isn't earned by being available 24/7. It's earned by being true to themselves. The world will test your boundaries. People will push back. Some will call you selfish. Others will try to make you feel guilty. But remember, those who get angry at your boundaries are the ones who benefited from you having none. Each time you enforce a boundary, you're not just protecting yourself, you're showing others what's possible. You're demonstrating that it's okay to have standards, to expect respect, to require consideration. You're setting an example that might help someone else find their voice. It's true that every healthy relationship you'll ever have will respect your boundaries. Every unhealthy relationship will fight against them. This isn't just a guideline. It's a law of human interaction as reliable as gravity. Your past relationships don't define your future ones. Just because you've accepted less before doesn't mean you have to accept less now. Just because you didn't know how to set boundaries then doesn't mean you can't learn how to set them now. The quality of your life is directly related to the quality of your relationships. And the quality of your relationships is directly related to the strength of your boundaries. It's a simple equation, but one that many people never solve. When you begin to set healthy boundaries, something magical happens. The right people move closer and the wrong people move away. It's like watching a garden sort itself out. The flowers bloom and the weeds naturally fall away. Your worth isn't determined by how much you can tolerate, how much you can give, or how much you can endure. Your worth is inherent. It exists independent of what anyone else thinks, says, or does. Setting boundaries is simply acting in alignment with this truth. See, many people stay in unhealthy relationships because they fear being alone. But here's what they don't realize. You're never more alone than when you're with someone who doesn't respect your boundaries, doesn't honor your values, and doesn't appreciate your worth. Think about the kind of relationship you want, not just romantic relationships, but all relationships. What does respect look like to you? What does consideration feel like? What does healthy love sound like? These aren't just dreams. They're blueprints for your future connections. Every time you enforce a boundary, you're making a declaration. You're saying, this is who I am. This is what I need. This is what I will and won't accept. It's not just about the current moment. It's about all the moments that will follow. The people who truly care about you will respect your boundaries. They might not like them at first. They might not understand them immediately, but they will respect them because they respect you. Well, that's valuable information about where they belong in your life. Your energy is like a garden. It needs protection to flourish. When you let everyone and anyone trample through your emotional space, you're letting them destroy the very things you're trying to grow. Peace, joy, self-respect, and healthy relationships. Setting boundaries isn't about building walls. It's about installing doors. You get to choose who comes in when they come in and how long they stay. You get to decide what behavior is acceptable in your space and what isn't. This isn't control. It's self-care. Consider how many times you've ignored your intuition, that quiet voice inside that says, this doesn't feel right, that feeling in your gut that says, this person is crossing a line. Your intuition is your inner boundary detector. It's time to start listening to it. The strongest boundaries are often the quietest. They don't need to be announced with fanfare or enforced with drama. They're simply there, consistent and clear, like the banks of a river guiding the flow of water. When you start setting boundaries, some people will call you different, changed. They'll say you're not the person they used to know. And they're right, you're not. You're becoming the person you were always meant to be. Think about how much energy you spend worrying about other people's feelings while ignoring your own. How often you sacrifice your peace to keep others comfortable. How frequently you silence your own needs to avoid rocking the boat. That energy could be spent building something beautiful instead. Your relationship should add to your life, not subtract from it. They should multiply your joy, not divide your attention. They should elevate your spirit, not diminish your shine. These aren't just poetic words. They're standards to live by. Every time you say yes when you want to say no, You're not just betraying your boundaries, you're betraying yourself. Every time you accept behavior that doesn't align with your values, you're not just lowering your standards, you're lowering your self-worth. The habit of setting healthy boundaries starts with small decisions. Deciding not to answer that late-night text, choosing not to explain yourself when you've already said no, opting to leave when someone disrespects you. These small moments create big changes. Consider the way you handle your boundaries today shapes all your tomorrows. Each time you stand firm in your worth, you're creating a future where respect is the norm, not the exception, where healthy relationships are your standard, not your struggle. Many people worry that setting boundaries means losing people. But here's the truth. The only people you lose by setting boundaries are the ones who benefited from you having none. And that's not a loss, it's a liberation. Your heart knows what it needs. Your mind knows what it deserves. Your soul knows what it's worth. Setting boundaries is simply bringing these three wisdom centers into alignment and acting from that place of inner truth. The most profound act of self-love is often saying no to what doesn't serve you. It's drawing a line between what you'll accept and what you won't. It's choosing your peace over other people's preferences. It's prioritizing your well-being over their comfort. And every relationship in your life is teaching you something. The healthy ones teach you about love, respect, and growth. The unhealthy ones teach you about boundaries, self-worth, and what you'll no longer accept. Both are valuable lessons. Think about the example you're setting for others in your life, your children, your friends, your family. When they see you respect yourself enough to set boundaries, you're showing them it's possible. You're breaking cycles that might have existed for generations. Your boundaries aren't up for debate. They're not discussion points. They're not flexible guidelines that bend to accommodate others' desires. They're firm lines drawn from self-respect, self-knowledge, and self-love. Consider how many times you've compromised your boundaries to keep the peace. But whose peace were you keeping? Not your own. True peace comes from being in alignment with your values, not in conflict with them. The right people will make you feel safe enough to be yourself, strong enough to maintain your boundaries, and valued enough to never question your worth. These aren't impossible standards. They're the basic requirements for healthy relationships. Your time on this earth is limited, your energy is finite. Your attention is valuable. When you understand this, you understand why boundaries aren't just important, they're essential. They're the guardians of your most precious resources. Setting boundaries isn't about controlling others. It's about controlling what you accept in your life. It's about deciding what behavior you'll allow in your space, what energy you'll permit in your presence, what treatment you'll receive in your relationships. Every time you hold a boundary, you're holding space for something better. Every time you say no to what doesn't serve you, you're saying yes to what could fulfill you. Every time you choose yourself, you're choosing your future. The path to healthy relationships isn't found in compromise after compromise. It's found in mutual respect, shared values, and honored boundaries. Anything less isn't a relationship. It's a lesson in what you won't accept again. Your worth isn't negotiable. Your boundaries aren't flexible. Your values aren't debatable. These aren't harsh truths. They're foundations of healthy living. They're the building blocks of a life well lived, of relationships well chosen, of love well given. The greatest gift you can give yourself is the courage to set boundaries and the strength to maintain them. Because when you do, you're not just changing your relationships, you're changing your life. You're not just protecting your space, you're creating your future. And that future, it's bright with possibility. It's rich with authentic connections. It's strong with self-respect. It's peaceful with clear boundaries. It's beautiful with true understanding. And most importantly, it's yours to create, starting right now, one boundary at a time. Success in relationships mirrors success in life. Just as a successful business sets clear terms and conditions, your personal life needs its own terms and conditions. Not harsh rules, but clear standards that protect your happiness. Sometimes the smallest boundary creates the biggest change, like turning off phone notifications during your personal time. That simple act tells both yourself and others that your peace matters. It's a quiet revolution that starts with one small choice. Watch how children naturally set boundaries. They say no without guilt. They express their feelings without fear. They walk away from what doesn't feel right. Somewhere along the way, many of us unlearn these natural instincts. It's time to reclaim them. Each morning brings a new chance to honor yourself. Each interaction offers an opportunity to practice self-respect. Each challenge presents a moment to strengthen your boundaries. Life gives us these chances daily. We just need the wisdom to take. Notice how nature sets boundaries effortlessly. Trees grow their own space, rivers carve their own paths, animals mark their own territory. It's not aggressive or apologetic. It's simply natural. Your boundaries should feel just as natural. Our lives speak in the language of precedence. When you accept disrespect once, you invite it twice. When you ignore your boundaries today, you make them harder to enforce tomorrow. But the opposite is also true. Each time you stand firm, you make the next time easier. Good fences make good neighbors, and good boundaries make good relationships. They create clear expectations. They eliminate guesswork. They prevent resentment before it can take root. They allow authentic connections to flourish. The price of weak boundaries isn't just paid in the present. It compounds over time. Like interest on a debt, the cost grows higher the longer you wait to address it. But unlike financial debt, this one can be cleared the moment you decide to honor your worth. Some call it selfish to put yourself first. But consider this, a lighthouse doesn't dim its light to accommodate the ships. It shines brightly, consistently, reliably. That's not selfishness. That's serving your purpose while helping others navigate safely around you. Toxic relationships often disguise themselves as familiar comfort, like an old shoe that hurts your feet but feels broken in. The discomfort of new, healthy boundaries might feel strange at first, but it's the good kind of strange, like standing up straight after years of slouching. Your standards aren't obstacles to relationships. They're filters for quality. They don't keep love away. They ensure that when love arrives, it's the kind that builds you up rather than tears you down. They're not walls. They're welcome mats for the right people. The power of a boundary lies not in its rigidity, but in its clarity. Like a well-written contract, it simply states what is and isn't acceptable. No anger needed. No drama required. Just clear, consistent communication through both words and actions. Consider how many times you've heard that's just how they are as an excuse for poor behavior. Now imagine saying this is just how I am as a statement of your standards. Your boundaries aren't up for debate any more than someone else's behavior is. Life becomes simpler when your yes means yes and your no means no. When your actions align with your words, when your outside matches your inside. This alignment isn't just about boundaries, it's about integrity with yourself. Physical health requires regular exercise. Mental health requires regular rest. Emotional health requires regular boundaries. These aren't luxury items on life's menu. They're essential nutrients for your well-being. The strongest steel gets forged in the hottest fire. The strongest boundaries get tested by the toughest situations. Each test is an opportunity to prove to yourself that your worth isn't just theoretical, it's practical, actionable, real. Motion creates emotion. When you act with self-respect, you begin to feel self-respect. When you set healthy boundaries, you begin to feel healthier. When you require better treatment, you begin to feel more deserving. Action precedes feeling. The quality of your life often comes down to what you'll no longer accept. It's found in the moments when you say enough, when you choose differently, when you raise your standards. These moments might feel small, but they're the hinges upon which your future turns. A garden grows best with both sunlight and shade. With both nurture and protection, your life needs the same balance. Your boundaries create the shade that makes growth possible. They provide the protection that allows your best qualities to flourish. True confidence isn't about believing you're better than others. It's about knowing you deserve better than mistreatment. It's about understanding that your boundaries aren't suggestions, your standards aren't flexible, and your worth isn't debatable. Like a skilled captain navigating treacherous waters, you must know where the safe harbors are and where the dangerous shoals lie. Your boundaries are your map, showing you what's safe to accept and what must be avoided for your own well-being. The world responds to the standards you set. Like water finding its level, relationships will rise or fall to meet your expectations. Set them low, and that's what you'll get. Set them high and watch how a life rises to meet them. Freedom isn't found in having no boundaries. It's found in having the right ones. Like the banks of a river that direct its flow, good boundaries don't restrict you. They guide you toward your best life, your truest self, your highest potential. The greatest gift you can give others is your authentic self. But you can only give that gift when you're protected by strong boundaries. They're the wrapping paper that keeps your precious gift safe until they're ready to be shared with the right people. Each boundary you set sends a message to the universe about what you'll accept in your life. Each standard you maintain broadcasts your self-worth to the world. Each limit you enforce tells your story louder than words ever could. Your future self is watching your present choices. Every time you honor your boundaries, you're building trust with yourself. Every time you maintain your standards, you're investing in your tomorrow. Every time you choose self-respect, you're creating a legacy of strength. Let your growth inspire others, but never shrink to make them comfortable. Let your boundaries guide them, but never bend them to accommodate disrespect. Let your light shine, but never dim it to soothe those who fear their own darkness. The path forward is clear. It's marked by self-respect, paved with healthy boundaries, and lit by unwavering standards. It might not be the easiest path, but it's the one that leads to true fulfillment, authentic relationships, and lasting peace. Take this moment right now, commit to yourself, to promise that from this day forward, your boundaries will be clear, your standards will be high, and your self-respect will be non-negotiable, because you deserve nothing less than the very best life has to offer. Your decisions today shape your reality tomorrow. Choose wisely. Choose boldly. Choose yourself. Seize your time, your moment, your life. Guard it well. Live it fully. Share it wisely. Because when you truly value yourself, the world has no choice but to value you too.